You don't deserve it anyway, Amanda sneered, dangling her daughter's new car keys in front of me. Jessica needs this more than you ever would. My name is Michael, and at 22, I just discovered my stepmom had emptied my graduation gift fund. Money my late father had set aside for me to buy her precious daughter a brand new BMW. I stood in our driveway, watching Jessica hop excitedly around her shiny new car, while Amanda continued her smug monologue about how the money was better spent on someone who actually had potential. The $75,000 my father had saved for my graduation, gone in an instant, transferred to fulfill my stepsister's latest whim. Your father would understand, Amanda said, patting my cheek condescendingly. Jessica's starting her modeling career. She needs to make the right impression. What were you going to do with it anyway? Waste it on more education. I kept my face neutral, even as my hands clenched into fists in my pockets. Amanda had no idea about the documents I'd found last week while organizing my father's old study. Papers that would wipe that smug smile right off her face. But timing was everything, and right now, I needed to play my part. How did you even access that account? I asked, keeping my voice level. Dad left specific instructions about that money. Amanda laughed, flipping her perfectly styled hair. Oh honey, your father made me joint executor of his estate, remember? I have access to everything. It's time you accepted that I'm in charge now. Everything. That's what she thought. She had no idea about the secret account my father had established, the one containing the bulk of his retirement savings, the account Amanda had been trying to locate for the past 3 years, convinced it existed but unable to find any trace of it. I see, I said quietly. Well, I hope Jessica enjoys her car. What's wrong with you? Jessica called out from behind the wheel of her new BMW. Usually you're all dramatic about everything, finally learning your place. I shrugged, turning to head back into the house. Just tired, I guess. Congratulations on the car. Behind me, I heard Amanda's suspicious whisper to Jessica. He's up to something. He never gives up this easily. She was right about that. I headed straight to my father's study, the one room Amanda hadn't managed to completely take over since his death 4 years ago. She tried, of course, but I'd stood my ground about keeping it as it was. Sentimental value, I claimed. In reality, it was because I needed access to what was hidden there. I sat at his desk, running my fingers along the worn leather of his chair. Dad had been smart, brilliant, really. He'd known exactly what kind of woman he'd married, even if he'd hoped she'd prove him wrong. The night before his fatal heart attack, he called me into this very study. Michael, he'd said, his voice serious. There are things you need to know. Just in case. He'd shown me where to find certain documents, how to access specific accounts. Don't tell Amanda about any of this. Not unless you have to. At the time, I thought he was being paranoid. Now, 4 years later, I understood perfectly. Amanda had shown her true colors gradually, starting with small things, redirecting my college fund to Jessica's modeling classes, selling my mother's jewelry to pay for Jessica's new wardrobe, slowly pushing me out of family decisions. I pulled out my laptop and logged into the account Amanda had been searching for. There it was, $2.3 million in retirement savings, untouched since my father's death. Amanda's name wasn't anywhere on the paperwork. Instead, there was a clear instruction, to be managed by my son, Michael, with full discretionary control. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Dinner's at 7. Try not to ruin Jessica's celebration with your attitude. I smiled, typing back a simple "ok." Let them celebrate. Let Amanda think she'd won, that she'd finally broken me down. She had no idea what was coming. I spent the next hour making calls to my father's old lawyer, to the bank, to the financial advisors who'd helped set up these accounts. Everything was in order, exactly as my father had planned. I had full control over not just the retirement account, but also several other investments Amanda knew nothing about. At precisely 7 p.m., I joined them in the dining room. Jessica was still chattering about her new car, while Amanda nodded approvingly at everything her daughter said. We should celebrate properly, Amanda announced. I'll book us a trip to Paris next month. Jessica needs to network with European modeling agencies anyway. How will you pay for that? I asked innocently, cutting into my steak. Amanda's smile was sharp. Don't worry about money, Michael. That's for adults to handle. Besides, once I access your father's retirement account, we'll have plenty to spare. I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. You seem very confident about finding that account. Oh, I will, she said, her eyes narrowing. It's just a matter of time. Your father couldn't have hidden it too well. If only she knew how wrong she was. My father had hidden it perfectly, right where she'd never think to look, in plain sight, under a business name she dismissed as worthless years ago. Maybe, I replied, standing up from the table. I'm going to turn in early. Big day tomorrow. Whatever, Jessica muttered, already back to scrolling through her phone. Amanda watched me leave, that suspicious look back in her eyes. She knew something was off but couldn't quite figure out what. That was fine by me. Tomorrow, she'd understand exactly what she'd done, and what it was going to cost her. I fell asleep at night to the sound of Jessica revving her new BMW in the driveway, probably taking selfies for her social media. Let them enjoy their moment of triumph. Tomorrow, everything would change. The real question was, would they ever see it coming? The next morning, I woke up early and dressed carefully in the suit my father had bought me for my college graduation, the last gift he'd given me before he passed. Amanda had tried to give it to Jessica's boyfriend last Christmas, claiming I'd outgrown it. She hadn't expected me to have it safely stored at my best friend Tom's house. I could hear Amanda and Jessica in the kitchen, probably planning their Paris shopping spree. As I walked in, Amanda's eyes narrowed at my formal attire. "What's with the suit?" she asked, stirring her designer coffee. "Finally got a job as a waiter." Jessica snickered, not bothering to look up from her phone. "Maybe he has a court date. Did you get caught stealing to replace the money I got for my car?" I poured myself a coffee, enjoying their smug exchange. "Actually, I have a meeting at Riverside Financial Group, Dad's old company." That got Amanda's attention. She set down her cup so quickly it clattered against the saucer. "What? Why would they want to meet with you?" "Something about Dad's old accounts," I said casually. "Apparently there are some documents that need reviewing." The color drained from Amanda's face. "I'm coming with you. As executor of the estate, I should be there for any financial discussions." I shook my head, straightening my tie. The invitation was specifically for me. Something about private accounts. "There are no private accounts," Amanda snapped, her composure cracking. "I've gone through everything. Every account, every investment. There's nothing left except that retirement fund, which I'll find eventually." I grabbed my keys, not to a new BMW, but to my father's old Mercedes that Amanda had failed to sell despite multiple attempts. "We'll see." The drive to Riverside Financial was tense. Amanda had insisted on coming along, following me in Jessica's new car. I could see her in my rearview mirror, talking frantically on her phone, probably to her lawyer. Mr. Harrison, my father's old friend and the company's CEO, was waiting in the lobby. His face broke into a warm smile when he saw me, then cooled considerably as Amanda clicked across the marble floor in her expensive heels. "Michael," he said warmly, shaking my hand. "You look just like your father in that suit." He turned to Amanda, his tone professional. "Mrs. Walker, I wasn't expecting you." "I'm the executor of my husband's estate," she said sharply. "I have a right to be here." Mr. Harrison looked at me, raising an eyebrow. I nodded slightly. "Very well," he said. "Please follow me." In the conference room, Amanda immediately took the power position at the head of the table. Mr. Harrison didn't comment, simply opened his briefcase and began laying out documents. "We're here today," he began, "to review the status of certain accounts established by the late James Walker." Amanda leaned forward eagerly. "The retirement account, you found it?" In a manner of speaking, Mr. Harrison said, sliding a document across the table, to me, not to her. I picked it up, already knowing what it contained. "This confirms my position as sole administrator of the Walker Family Trusts, established 3 months before my father's death." Amanda's face went from eager to confused. "What trust?" "There is no trust. I would know about it." Mr. Harrison continued as if she hadn't spoken. "The trust contains the retirement account you've been searching for, Mrs. Walker, along with several other investment portfolios. Total current value, approximately $2.3 million. The silence in the room was deafening. Amanda's hands began to shake. "That's impossible," she whispered. "I'm the executor. Those funds should be under my control." Not quite, Mr. Harrison said, producing another document. Your executor status applies only to the general estate. Mr. Walker set up this trust separately, with explicit instructions that it be managed by his son, Michael. I watched as Amanda's perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather armrests of her chair. But the graduation fund. I had access to that. Yes, I said quietly, Dad left that smaller account accessible to test you. To see what you do with it. Test me? Her voice rose hysterically. I'm your father's wife. I don't need to be tested. And yet, Mr. Harrison interjected, you used those funds to buy your daughter a luxury vehicle instead of respecting the deceased's wishes. Amanda turned to me, her eyes suddenly calculating. Michael, sweetie, let's discuss this as a family. I'm sure we can work something out. Like you worked out selling my mother's jewelry? I asked calmly. Or redirecting my college fund? Or maybe like you worked out buying Jessica a BMW with my graduation gift? Her face hardened. Everything I did was for this family. No, I corrected her. Everything you did was for Jessica, and now everything I'm going to do is for justice. I nodded to Mr. Harrison, who produced one final document. This, he said, is a formal notice of audit for all accounts you've managed since becoming executor. Given recent events, the trust is exercising its right to investigate any potential misuse of estate funds. Amanda's face went from red to white in seconds. We all knew what an audit would reveal: years of financial manipulation, unauthorized transfers, and questionable investments, all benefiting her and Jessica at my expense. You can't do this, she whispered. But I could, and I would. Dad had given me everything I needed to protect myself from her greed. Now it was time to use it. The audit begins tomorrow, I said, standing up. I suggest you start gathering your records. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Amanda, I'd hold off on booking those Paris tickets if I were you. As I walked out of the conference room, I heard her begin to cry. Not the manipulative tears she usually used to get her way, but real, panicked sobs. The first phase of my father's plan was complete. Now it was time for phase 2. The fallout was swift and devastating. Within a week, the audit revealed exactly what I'd expected: years of financial misconduct. Amanda had systematically funneled estate money into private accounts, funded Jessica's extravagant lifestyle with family assets, and even attempted to forge documents to access other restrictive funds. The day the BMW was repossessed, Jessica's screams could be heard across the neighborhood. This is all your fault, she shrieked at me. Mom was right. You're nothing but a jealous, spiteful nobody. I watched from my father's study window as the tow truck pulled away with her precious car. Amanda stood in the driveway, no longer the polished, confident manipulator she'd been just days ago. Her designer clothes had been replaced with simple basics. She'd had to return most of her wardrobe when the audit revealed it had been purchased with misappropriated funds. That evening, as I sat in the kitchen reviewing more documents with Mr. Harrison, Amanda made one last attempt to salvage her position. Michael, she said, her voice trembling, I know I made mistakes, but we're family. Your father wouldn't want you to destroy everything like this. I looked up at her, thinking of all the times she'd dismissed me, belittled me, stolen from me. Actually, this is exactly what Dad wanted. Why do you think he set up that test account? I'll pay back the graduation fund, she offered desperately. I'll sell my jewelry, my cars, anything. It's too late, I replied. The audit committee has frozen all your assets, and Jessica's too. The next day, they moved out. Amanda to a small apartment paid for by her sister. Jessica to her grandmother's house. The massive family home, which Amanda had redecorated countless times using estate money, felt eerily quiet. I found my mother's jewelry box in Amanda's closet, still containing some pieces she hadn't managed to sell. Among them was Mom's wedding ring, which Amanda had claimed was lost years ago. Mr. Harrison visited one last time to deliver the final audit results. Your father would be proud, he said, looking around the study that remained exactly as Dad had left it. He knew this day would come. That's why he prepared you so carefully. I nodded, thinking of that last conversation with my father, his quiet determination to protect me from what he knew would happen after he was gone. The trust is secure, Mr. Harrison continued, and the estate has been restructured under your sole control. Amanda won't be able to touch any of it now. Later that evening, I received a text from Jessica. I hope you're happy now that you've ruined our lives. Mom was right about you all along. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to my father's desk and opened the bottom drawer, pulling out an old photo album. Inside was a picture of Dad and me at my high school graduation, both of us smiling, unaware that we had less than a year left together. You were right, Dad, I said quietly to the photograph. About everything. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery in Dad's old Mercedes. The car Amanda had called embarrassingly outdated, but meant more to me than any new BMW. As I placed fresh flowers on his grave, I felt a sense of peace. Amanda and Jessica had learned the hard way that actions have consequences. More importantly, they'd learned that sometimes the person they dismissed as powerless had been in control all along. I took one last look at my father's headstone before turning to leave. Justice served, Dad, just like you planned.